The history of horror cinema is littered with masterpieces and mishaps. And a lot of times, movies from each of those camps exist within the same franchise. Characters who were once darkly mysterious tend to get over-explained. Slashers that used to be scary,
they were making love while that young boy drowned,
become kind of silly.
Hey, you want a beer?
Or do you want to smoke some pot?
Or we can have premarital sex.
And groundbreaking ideas, well, eventually they lose their way. They turn into tropes, get recycled and rethought until they're born again as something new entirely.
Oh, come on, you know I don't watch that shit.
Why not? Too scared?
No, it's just what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
But that sameness also serves as a starting point for the genre's steady evolution as filmmakers race to outdo or honor or comment on what came before.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Zoom out, and you'll see this trend repeat itself over and over throughout all of horror history. Predators get parodied. Zombies, in time, morph into zombievers. Soon everything starts to feel like a copy of a copy of a copy, which, in some ways, is depressing. But it's also kind of amazing because it means that nothing in the world of horror is precious. For scary movies more than any other genre, the rules are totally open to interpretation. Big swings are encouraged, even if they lead to big, dumb misses. And make no mistake, all of the top horror franchises have had their share of misses. Well, except one.
Who the hell are you?
Name's Ash. Housewares.
In a genre defined by formula and inconsistency, the Evil Dead films have quietly become our most consistent, high-quality, and fun horror franchise, despite each movie in the series varying wildly in tone. The franchise plays like a microcosm of the genre's bigger trends. The low-budget beginnings built on experimentation and genuine scares. Then the self-aware satire period, which bleeds into all-out comedy, only to return to a brutal, back-to-basics reinvention.
Face on this motherfucker!
Most horror franchises follow about this same pattern, but Evil Dead does it in hyperdrive over the course of just 5 films, each of which, in spite of their major differences, seems to share the same spirit, and that is the key. Watching these movies feels a little like creeping through a haunted house. And all of that big, wild, set-piece driven energy culminates in the latest entry in the series, which delivers on the blood and guts insanity that you'd expect from this series, but goes so much deeper into character and metaphor than these movies ever have before. So strap in as we explore why you need to see the very groovy Lee Cronin's Evil Dead Rise. Moving out of the woods and into the city, Evil Dead Rise takes place in a rundown apartment complex, and that's important because this is a movie about family. First we meet Ellie, played by the great Alyssa Sutherland, along with her 3 kids and her sister Beth, who just found out she's pregnant. Now, it's safe to say that Sam Raimi's original Evil Dead trilogy wasn't really about anything other than the magic of creativity and filmmaking, and I love that about it. These movies were a showcase not just for Raimi's vision, but for star Bruce Campbell, whose character transformed over the course of them from a cowardly victim of the Deadites and into a hardened, super cool, time-traveling, one-liner dropping demon slayer. There's a sequence in Evil Dead 2 where Campbell's character Ash loses his mind, and that's as close as we get to this series plumbing the depths of any kind of internal conflict. But that changed in 2013 with Fede Alvarez's reboot, which paints drug addiction as a form of possession, a malevolent force that makes a person lose control, lose themselves, the same as becoming a Deadite does. Where Evil Dead 2013 dabbled in deeper meanings though, Evil Dead Rise dives headlong into them. This one is all about its metaphor. Once Ellie becomes possessed, her sister is forced into a parental role she isn't sure she's ready for, protecting this group of surrogate children while still figuring out if she even wants to be a mom herself.
I gotta kill the creepy crawlies that I got inside my tummy. I don't like having things inside my tummy. Do you, Auntie Beth?
Eggs, babies, family, these are the fears driving Evil Dead Rise. And the carnage that stems from them is loaded with complicated emotions about parenthood and family. The fact that settling down can feel kind of scary. The idea that the more you love, the more afraid you are of loss. And that sometimes you kind of want to kill your kids.
I'm free now. Free from all you titty-sucking parasites.
But all that commentary is mixed here with the usual chaos you'd expect from this franchise, and that mix is what makes key character moments really pay off.
Two souls.
This is the moment Beth realizes she wants to keep her baby. And from this point on, the stakes are raised. By the time we reach the climax of Evil Dead Rise, Ellie and her children have merged back into one being, taking the idea of parents and children to a nightmarish extreme. Rather than run from her fears, though, Beth decides to stand and fight this family monster, fully embracing now her new maternal role.
Come get some.
Remember how we talked about horror films referencing the movies that came before them? None do it more enthusiastically than Evil Dead films.
Come get some.
More than homages, though, callbacks like these throughout the genre signal something closer to legacy. Images like this skull necklace repeat through the decades and create a sense of continuity in the horror canon. Even 22 years after Evil Dead 2, for instance, Raimi called back to this eyeball gag in his Drag Me to Hell, which is basically just a differently titled Evil Dead film. Then Cronin tips his hat to it again here in Rise. In fact, Sam Raimi could be seen as the poster child for horror's enduring drive to self-imitate. He even sneaks a horror sequence into Spider-Man 2, calling back to his roots with the Evil Dead cam and Ash's trusty chainsaw. These references might not mean much to mainstream audiences, but they're Easter eggs for horror nerds, and they mark a history that's essential to understanding how this genre works, and how the movies within it are constantly in dialogue with one another. Horror movies are all about horror history, and the directors who understand that history are bound not simply to repeat it, but to weave threads of it throughout their work, creating a map almost that traces back to the beginning of all things creepy in our culture.
We are the things that were and shall be again.
These moments where now and then merge make the experience of Evil Dead Rise all the richer. This franchise has always been about its gross-out gags and, above all else, its commitment to fun, and Rise continues that tradition. But it also expands the ambitions of this franchise by pairing all of that craziness with a very human story about parental uncertainty.
You don't look so good, Mom.
Nothing a big old hug and kiss from you won't fix. Open up now. Like a good girl.
In the age of, quote, elevated horror, Evil Dead Rise manages to add character depth and layers without ever feeling heady or intellectual. This is a gory, scary, fast-paced ride.
Do it for Mom and Dad.
It's a midnight movie, and it continues a long-standing streak that there has still never been a bad movie in this series. And what other horror franchise could say that?
Hail to the king, baby.